Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Robert Hagan. Man, Robert, football was crazy this week
Yeah.
because there was only drama. It was either drama or blowouts, which I found crazy. But this next week, I'm very, very excited for the 4 games we have this week. How you doing?
It's going to be a crazy weekend. We have talked about playoffs and all that. High school's happening. There's all kinds of things going on with that. But yeah, those 4 games, I'm like, I want to isolate the grandkids for a while, get them where I can just focus on football on Saturday and Sunday.
It's one of those. It's just we'll get into it when we get into the NFL segment, but I think last weekend was a proponent of not expanding the playoffs. Just do not. It's not good. We got a fantastic show, but I gotta just bring up something. Since this is technically we're now done with winter break for the show, but we are doing it live because high school basketball has taken over everything. We will be live in studio next week. And then in February, I don't think we're going to have a live show in the studio the entire month. I don't know if we can find an open spot in there. I need to email Joe and figure out what open spots we might be able to just sneak into to do the show for the radio. But it's a mess. We're getting close to playoff basketball, especially on the girls' side. I think the Lewiston girls have 3 games left. They play this weekend and then Golden Throne, and then one more game before playoffs all start. And Robert Taylor's here hanging out, waiting for us to say nice things about the Kansas City Chiefs. We will, and I promise.
Maybe.
But before we get into everything else, I gotta say, where'd you get that shirt?
Hey,
as somebody that has called many of that girl's games, that shirt is awesome.
This was, and then shout out to Star and Rory, Ashton Wallace's her shirt. This is the college one. They got this one a couple months ago, but I missed getting one from when she was a high school there at Clarkson. But saw Ashlyn last night, talked with her for a couple minutes. She was kind of incognito there at Kramer Gym. Long black coat, her hair down, black ball cap, and black mask. So, I mean, you couldn't make her out whether or not it was her or not, other than she was sitting with mom and dad. But yeah, sweet. I got so many compliments today with this shirt. But yeah, shout out AP3, Ashton.
Very, very cool. All right. So on today's show, it's another busy day. We're going to get it all into the NFL playoffs. Obviously, hit the local high schools, local college stuff going on. Our draft is going to be very interesting. We are still on the hunt for a judge. So if anybody out there is watching, wants to be a judge for the best college football coach of all time, kind of mix in what we talked about last week with some local news that hit hard over the past week. Obviously, we're going to talk about the passing of Ed Sheff, which is kind of what ties into all of that. Going to spend a lot of time with sports that don't get enough airtime, I think, this week. A lot of bowling news. Australian Open's going on, and the drama's nuts there.
The finish,
golf is going nuts.
Yeah, the finish of golf was crazy nuts there.
Joel Damon and Gino Benelli are dodging us in our doubles golf challenge that we threw out. So we'll talk all about that. But first, we have a special guest. It's the second time ever that we have had an athlete on the show for the second time. Khalil Stevenson was the first right before basketball season. But this man had himself a week, and we had to get him on. And then breaking news happened as I was trying to get things set up, as he was announced as the NAIA Indoor Track Athlete of the Week for the first time, which should have been first of many. But Clayton Van Dyke, man, how is it going? It's been what, about a year?
Yep, it's been a little while. Feeling pretty good. Now it's going well.
Yeah, so Clayton set a school record in the mile of just over 4 minutes, 4 minutes and 7 seconds.
4 minutes and 7.
Just behind the top runner. I just, as a word of advice, as a wrestling fan, and a wrestling fan of the bad guys, you got to learn how to like trip that guy right at the end.
Yeah, maybe next time.
So how has the season been going so far? I mean, obviously, the indoor
Pretty good.
season just kind of getting underway.
Yep, yep. Indoors, I would probably have to say is my favorite season. We had a meet back in December, and that was kind of a good opener right after the cross season. We took like a week off, got back into
Mhm.
the training, and it was a good start for me. I broke the 800 school record in there and set the nation leading time at their first meet. Came back the second meet in January, and then broke the school record in the mile and set a leading time in the mile that week. So.
So what is it in the water here at LC lately? Because every time you guys have a meet anymore, 2 or 3 of you are breaking school records.
I
We're old warriors just that slow, or
I don't
what are
know.
you
I think
guys doing?
the culture we have right now among the guys team, I mean, with me and like Cole Olson's really good. He set a nation
Mhm.
leading time as well. And we just have a lot of guys and even, girls especially, that I think we're working together and working really hard. And we just had Sam who competed in the Olympic Games. He's one of our coaches. And so having a standard to look forward, we want other athletes to do well and we want to give a name to LC. So I think we're all working hard for that.
And the accolades keep piling up. All
Hmm.
CC, cross country. Dude, how do you do it? I mean, how do you manage it? We did talk a little bit. You're down to your last
Hmm.
semester of school. I mean, how do you juggle things?
I think part of it, at first when I moved up here, like I had, I was working, I was going to school, and I'm running at the same time. And running's not an easy sport. Like I'm, pushing my body the physical limit every single day. And so I think that time management's been huge. Like every single day, like get up at 6 a.m., we go do our workout, then I'm at work, and then it's class, and then homework. And there's not a whole lot of time for free time, but I mean, running's what I want to do, so that's kind of where the main focus is at.
So with this being your last semester, what's in the near horizon after school is done?
I definitely want to keep running. I think I'm right on the edge of, maybe going pro. I think that's a possibility. And if I keep improving the way that I am, then I'm going to possibly go pro. I actually am working at a place in Lewiston right now. I'm a graphic designer. And I'm working at a place called Dynamic Designs. And I think I'm going to stick around here working there and running kind of under Coach Collins for, until probably the next Olympic cycle and maybe see what happens.
So what does it look like to be a pro runner? Are there different leagues that you join, or is it
Um,
just different events that pop up? And then is it so? Robert and I are both bowlers. We're not
mm,
professional bowlers in any means, but like there's always different level of events that always pop up, and then national tournaments here and there. Is that
mm-hmm.
kind of the same thing that happens with running? It's just you look
Yep.
up and go, okay, I have an event over here in Massachusetts
Mm-hmm.
in April, and is it like that
Yep.
or?
So brands or companies will sponsor big meets, track meets, and they'll range from distance events to throwing to jumping, all kinds of things. Anything that you would really see at an Olympic event, they have them all over the United States. And part of it, you have to have qualifying standards. I mean, running is purely based off of time. And what times you run, and that's kind of where standards come from. So they have a U.S. National Indoor Championships for track and field. They're actually in Spokane at the new facility that we've been running at. And in order to go to those, you have to hit those standards. And generally, the pros or pro level athletes are the ones competing at those.
So we have standards also for the NAI as well as far as like the
Hmm.
national tournaments and stuff. How many qualifying times do you already have this year?
As of right now, I have three, two individual, and then one including the DMR. Um, I'm kind of at a point in my career where the qualifying standards aren't necessarily a challenge, at least at the NEI level.
Hmm.
So I'm going to shoot for the 1K and the 600 this weekend. I don't imagine I'm going to have any issues getting those, um, but I'll probably have around 5 at the end of the season.
So
And then do you plan on running all 5 of those then?
No, well, so it's spread out between a couple of days, and I mean, running's a hard sport.
Hmm.
So what I'll probably end up doing since my last season, I've yet to win a national title, and so I'm probably going to put all my eggs in to one basket and run just the 800 of the mile. We'll decide when we get closer to the end of the season, kind of compared to what other competition that I'll have.
Hmm.
and you saying that, and you talk about really hitting on that. I it's coming up, the winter ones, but has the word Olympics ever crossed your mind? U.S. trials, that kind of stuff?
Yep. I think so, and I've got a couple of years. The 800, I would say, is probably my strongest event. Last year, I was about 4 seconds off the Olympic standard in the 800. And so I've got a couple of years, definitely some development that I'm gonna have to go through, hard work, definitely. So I wouldn't put that out of the question. I think the Olympic trials is definitely doable. The Olympic Games, as of right now, the USA track and field is probably the best it's ever been as far as pros go. But I wouldn't put it past me to, maybe qualify for trials someday.
So we talked about it last year because obviously you're talking to two non-runners and two very
Mhm.
unathletic people. That's why we bowl and golf and do those sports. But other than just obviously, I see you running around the valley every so
Mhm.
often and going around. But other than just getting your running in and getting your miles in, what other kind of training do you do to kind of get that work in?
That's a good question. So, there's a lot of stuff. It can go from, I mean, nutrition's really important, and I wouldn't really, it's not say training, but that's really important. A lot of us focus on what we're eating. Core is especially
Oh.
important. So, like ab exercises, and then we'll go to the gym and do some lifting 2 or 3 times a week. And then stretching is important, breathing control. There's a whole lot of things. So, we're not just running. So, once I finish my run, then we usually do about 15 to 20 minutes of core and then stretching and my breathing size exercises and things on top of that. So
Cool.
I'm hiding over the not healthy food that I was eating before we started the show.
Listen, you talk a little bit about your graphic design. I know we talked
Mhm.
about it the last time we had you on. How is that going? Is things expanding for you, or you
Mhm.
what do you got? What irons do you have in the fire with your graphics right now?
I think for me, I mean, running's like, as my dream, running is the dream. I think
Mhm.
that graphic design is also a passion, though. Um, as of right now, I'm working in a place called Dynamic Designs. We do like vehicle wraps and snowmobiles, and I'm kind of one of the head designers. Like I've designed wraps for snowmobiles, box trucks, logos, just about really anything, t-shirts, stuff like that. And I really do enjoy it. It's kind of nice to, I practice in the morning and then I go to work and I get to sit down at my desk and, be creative, kind of take my mind away from the sport. And I really like it because of that reason. I've got good coworkers and a good boss, so it just all works. So
Yeah, it's time to start designing an R&R shirt for us. Well,
that
you
would
could
be
be the
cool.
first one to wear it. There you go.
That would be very cool.
And then we could have. We always try to get it into trouble with competitions here. It worked really well with Kai. But I'm just
Mhm.
curious. Do you think you could run a mile
Oh no.
faster than Robert Hagen could run the 800? I want to see that race.
Probably. Um,
I don't think there's any argument from Robert,
Yeah,
but I would love to see it. That's what I want to see now. Comment
would be
below if that's what we want to see. That's
no. You still want to go basketball? What was it? You and Khalil against me and Al, right?
yeah.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, as long as it's not the two of us against two way better basketball players. If I could lean on Khalil, that'd be great. If we could do
Uh,
some sort of race where I just lean on Clayton the whole time, we'd do that too.
there you
three-legged
go.
race.
You
So
just dragged me.
drag him around the track. So Saturday we're looking at the Idaho's Lauren McCluskey Memorial Open in Moscow.
Mhm.
What can we look forward to that?
Actually, and I haven't really publicly outwardly said this, but the U.S. national champ standard in the 1K, I think, is within reach. So I want to qualify for the U.S. national championships. That's the weekend before NAIA championships, and I think that the 1K or the 800 are my best shot. So I'm going to try and go for that. I'd like to win, of course, but I think qualifying for that standard is going to be probably the most
What
important thing for me.
what is that time? What time do we need to be looking
So
for when we're
for
looking
one
at results on
kilometer, I
Saturday?
need to. So for 1 kilometer, it'll be 2 minutes, 23 seconds, 23.55. So about 2:23 and a half seconds. Yeah.
So
Pretty quick for a
checking that out.
kilometer.
Right. Yeah, you can check all of those results on lcwarriors.com. They usually have those up pretty quick, or links to where you can see the results that whatever website is running the races
Mhm.
at the time. So they always have all that information. But I have to bring up we touched on it at the beginning of the interview. I kind of want to close it out on this. Yeah, you told us off air how you've been really wanting that NAIA award for
Mhm.
athlete of the week or athlete of the week, and now you finally got it. What does that mean to you?
It's pretty cool. Like as far as all the awards that I've received, that's something that I just haven't received yet. Um, like I've been the co-side academic athlete of the year, West Conference athlete, and just to be able to be recognized for that, for the performance out of all the performances that happened in a single week, out of the whole country, to be recognized as an athlete, like that is really special, and I was
Mhm.
super excited. Like I said, I was watching. I'd like refresh the web page, every couple hours just to see if I got it. So it's just really cool, and I can add that to my collection of accolades. So
I'm curious if I knew before you did. I found out while trying to set up the interview with you today.
mm,
So looking, we were talking about it how you and Cole were kind of the staples when Robert and I first started the show, and you're
mm,
looking at the male runners. You two were kind of just the two stalwarts that we always saw at the top of the leaderboards. We feel like we said your name every week because again, you had all three sports going on at the same time: the
mm-hmm,
indoor and outdoor track and cross country. So you guys were there every single week. But now looking at it, so you were the not only the NAIA player of the week, but obviously the Cascade player of the week. And on the women's side, you had Madigan Kelly, who is
mm-hmm.
from Lewiston, a freshman. What have you seen out of her? And do you see a bright future from her?
I think so. Well, it's interesting because we don't really get a lot of qualifying on the track side of things, not quite as often as the distance. And so seeing a freshman, especially on the girls' side, being able to hit a standard and breaking school records and stuff is really important, I think, for the future of our track program. Not only people will see that and girls will see that and they'll want to compete at our school as long as, and she set a standard for herself at this point, and hopefully that she continues pushing those boundaries as she gets, older.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the program just continues to get stronger and stronger, and it's
Mhm.
it's awesome to see. All right, we got through all that. Now it's time for Robert to hit you with the hard hitting question.
So now,
All
Clayton,
right.
since the last time you were here, we've added a little bit to get
We,
some quick fire questions,
we've tweaked.
just a little bit. So we'll hit you with a few of them. No, you know, describing people this time because we put you through that last time when we threw out
Mm-hmm.
Clayton. So, but how about a couple of them really quick? If you could host a talk show, who would your first guest be?
I'd have to be Craig Engels. That name probably doesn't sound familiar, but he is probably like my inspiration in running. He's super cool. I ended up meeting him at a pro meet I did in Stumptown in Portland, and he's just super fun and he's super energetic, and he just brings a good energy to the sport.
All right. So we see you're home there tonight, and that
Mm-hmm.
big with us not being at the station either. I'm gonna throw it out there. Which household chore do you hate doing there at the house?
The house, the mouse. I'd have to say probably doing the dishes because we have like five guys in one house, and so having to do the dishes for all of them, especially when things get busy, not everybody's schedules are different, and so if I need a bowl, like I'm just might as well do the whole dishes. So,
That's kind of what happens in my house too. All right. How about your biggest pet peeve? What sets you off?
oh man, I think honestly, or like especially on a track team, I think that when I notice that people are, I don't know if this is like they get upset probably at the performance, like good performance in others when I know that they can work harder. If that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like I worked really hard to get to where I am. And so when people get upset at, my experience and my abilities, it's like I worked hard to get to this point, so it doesn't just happen. And I think that's like, especially on a
Mhm.
team, you see that kind of stuff a lot. And I'd have to say that's probably my biggest pet peeve.
Yep. Yep. So, with that being said, I guess that's probably going to lead into our next question, which is one important skill that every person should master.
Honestly, it's a part of it is just like the mental strength to just be able to work hard. Like I think that especially at an NAI level, a lot of us weren't super talented coming out of high school, and just that the ability to work hard and like being able to take yourself and like mold yourself into something that you want to be. Even though originally it might not, the vision for this might not be clear, but just hard work, it really is important. So
Right, right. I love that. So this one came up about 3 months ago, 4 months ago. Are you a big peanut butter and jelly fan?
I am. I do like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
All right.
That's like my staple for pre-race.
I love the fact that we bring this up, and I think we've had one person ever go, nah.
Nah.
It's just a
Really?
staple. Is this
It
just
is
a
a
staple?
staple.
But that's not the question. It's a way more important question than that.
Well, first I got to ask how many. What's the average week of peanut butter and jellies? How many peanut butter and jellies do you eat in a week?
I feel like as college has gone on, it's decreased, but there's times where I'd say at least, 2 or 3 a day almost.
Oh,
You're talking probably 15 or 20 a week on like, because sometimes you're busy, right? And then the quickest thing is to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You can put it in a bag and take it with you, and they're good. Like this, you can't go wrong with a sandwich.
yeah. So the big question is, what is the percentage of peanut butter to jelly? Are you more of a peanut butter fan or more of a jelly fan?
I think it's got to be, just a little more jelly than the peanut butter. I think if there's too much peanut butter, I think it makes the sandwich, kind of hard to eat. But I do like the flavor, but I'd have to say I'm a little more on the jelly side.
You're in the minority because most
I
everybody has
am.
said peanut butter, which is kind of odd.
Now, I
How
gotta
about
add one. I gotta add one
okay?
in there just real quick. Flavor of jelly. That I think that's a new one that we need to hit people with.
Raspberry. I think it's got to be raspberry. I love raspberries. That's like the best. I don't know. That's got to be the best.
It is now my mission to have a 2-hour podcast where we just break down peanut butter and jelly with
Peanut
somebody.
butter jelly sandwiches.
Well, we'll have to get the song "Peanut Butter Jelly Time" and just play it in the background the
Mhm.
entire
There you go.
time.
Yeah.
How about your favorite pair of running shoes? I know, I mean, we all have something as bowlers. I love my lens. I've had my lens for a long time. What's your favorite pair of bowling shoes
So
Running
my
shoes.
favorite
or running shoes?
my favorite pair of running shoes, actually, they discontinued. They were called the New Balance Zonti Pursuits, and I ran in those my first 3 years of college. And then they came out with a new version that's just not as good. But I have to say, that's my favorite shoe. You could do like any workout on them. You could do long runs, just like they were the best. I have a couple of old pairs, but I can't run them anymore because after a while, shoes just start hurting your legs and whatnot. But yeah, I'd have to say that's probably my favorite pair of shoes.
How often do you change your shoes out? I mean, do you get a good season out of them, or
Yeah,
are
well,
they?
so as I've become more experienced, I don't just have a single pair of running shoes. As of right now, like as far as workouts go and all my training, I'm probably rotating between 6 to 8 pairs of shoes. Um, and so originally in high school, I'd probably get one pair of shoes, and they'll last me about a season. But now where I'm running roughly 60 to 80 miles a week. Just one pair of shoes isn't enough to, unless I was going to buy one every other month.
Mhm.
So, I'd say 3 or 4 shoes will last me about a season.
Cool. And last but not least, who's your favorite teammate that you'd like to play around and run with, and one that pushes you to be that athlete that you are?
Honestly, I'd have to say Cole Olson. He is a kind of a long distance guy and a kind of a short distance guy, middle distance, and so we kind of push each other and each other's weaknesses. And honestly, ever since I've been on this team, we've been doing that, the whole time. And so I think having him and I together, working together, pushing each other in those weaknesses has made us better. And we're both, proving that at a pretty good level. So.
All right. Well, Clayton, thank you again so much for hanging out with us again, and congratulations on the
Thank
NAI
you.
award. Very well deserved, and I think long overdue. Obviously,
Mhm.
congratulations on breaking another school record in the mile.
Thank you.
And I will be waiting to see you turn pro and get that thing under 4 minutes. I think that would
Thank you.
be very, very cool. But again, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Mhm.
Always a fun person to talk to. That is Clayton Van Dyke. He will be part of the Lauren McCluskey's Memorial Open in Moscow, along with the rest of the LCSC track team. Clayton, man, thanks you so much.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, bud. Always
Just
great to
always
have
fun.
him. Oh man, just the insight. I mean,
Mhm.
to think about how many pairs of shoes he goes through. That and just it puts into thought process of if he's running 60 to 80 miles in a week, dude, I think I've ran 60 to 80 miles in my entire life.
My favorite part of that whole interview was the fact that with confidence, oh, I could beat Robert running twice as long. Just no problem.
And then
I love it.
what's
It's
gonna
just great.
happen is I'm gonna get signed up somehow, and I'm gonna end up having to run at Clarkston High School or over at LC. One
The
of the
only
two.
way you beat Clayton in that race is when he runs by you, you do what I said and you trip him. And we don't need that because we need him to go out and win all these awards and do great things. So it might be dangerous for Clayton to take that race, I think.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. Let's get into the NFL wild card weekend. And honestly, we had 6 games. 2 of them were games, right?
Yeah, I
Like
think so.
4 of them were such blowouts by the second quarter. I felt like a casual fan. I was like, I'll go do something else. I'll keep checking in on it. And you check back in, you're like, oh, it's worse. Oh, the score's worse than what it was. But 2 games came down to the wire. Both had referee drama, but only one gets talked about now because it involves the Dallas Cowboys and everyone freaks out. But the first game of Wild Card Weekend, the Bengals and the Raiders had such horrible refereeing in that game. Not just on a play where people, and we'll get into the Dallas thing, which I completely disagree with the referees being bad there. But how many times did we see the referees huddle up for 3 minutes for like a holding call? Like not sure exactly what they wanted to call. Then you had the weird whistle before Burrow threw the ball because he thought he stepped out of bounds and he was nowhere close. And then they counted the touchdown anyways. Have you seen a weirder officiated game in a playoff game than that one?
I don't know about officiated, but I could tell you the crew. Just as soon as I saw the crew, I knew it was going to be one of those crew, and it's Mr. James Boger. I call him Booger because Booger, dude, that guy has made so many bad blown calls in the last few years. I'm surprised they're still even letting him officiate with his crew as many times as they've been, you know, I wouldn't say reprimanded, but how many times that they've been called out on some of their calls, and now to lose, the chance of even participating in the postseasons this next year, I wouldn't be half surprised if they maybe even start thinking about replacing them. It'll be interesting, but I didn't get to watch a lot of that game. I got to watch like the first 5 minutes of the game before I worked the LC game, basketball game. We'll talk about that here later. But yeah, I did not get to see it. And I know you were messaging me during the game telling me what the heck's going on. And it's just crazy to think about how an outcome can be determined, you know, by a few plays and they're silly plays. So
it was a complete mess. That game was just weird. Let's talk about the other game. Obviously, the big game of the weekend, the one that has just blown up all of the sports shows since then. San Francisco 49ers defeat the Dallas Cowboys 23-17. I think the 49ers completely dominated that first half, maybe first 2.5 quarters. Give credit to Dallas for coming back, having the chance to win that game on the final drive. What they have, 30-some seconds, 40-some seconds at the start of that drive, did a couple neat plays. You definitely knew who was calling some of the plays, especially the hook and ladder. A little Boise State action there, which was kind of cool to see. But then the play that everyone is talking about, the QB sneak with 14 seconds to go. Dak runs a little bit farther than I think intended, and then forgot what to do when a play gets over. But everyone wants to blame the referee. So I want to get your thoughts before I go on a Randy rant.
Listen, that was the longest 4 minutes. The last 4 minutes of that game lasted what I think Denise and I talked almost 40 minutes, how long
Mhm.
everything happened. Um, but before they get to the call with everything happening, it boils down to a lot of silly mistakes that Dallas made. The penalties killed them all day long. And it wasn't just coming down to that point. They wouldn't have even been in that point if San Francisco's, I think it was the left guard that moved for the false start when it was fourth
Right.
and inches, because Jimmy G was 24 of 24 all season long at fourth down and short, or fourth down
Mhm.
and one or less. You knew what was coming, and you can't keep your linemen from moving. So yeah, they had to boot it away. What was it? They had a minute and 30 seconds left. But I'm not. I think I'm more upset that Dallas, the way they played penalty wise, because there were some
Mhm.
silly penalties on the defensive side that put San Francisco into easy scoring opportunities. So, you know, they lost it a long time ago. And talking with another Dallas fan there yesterday, we talked about the idea of how some of the defensive players were playing start of the year to what they were playing in this game. They just seemed to be almost going through the motions.
Yeah.
Not taking anything away from Parsons. Parsons is probably the defensive rookie of the year, but I think they shot themselves in the foot earlier than what that last 4 minutes played out.
I agree. But the question is, who is to blame for that last play?
That's all. I think that's all Dak. I really do. I mean, but why would you call a quarterback draw when
Right.
with that much time left? Easily, and I kind of agree. And I forget who was on the radio at that time calling that game. But why would you not attempt to take the sidelines, even though they had finally figured out how to play the defensive sidelines to take them away? The last 30 seconds, I still would have taken, you know, at least two shots towards the end zone with the 14 that was left.
Right. So I didn't like the play call. I don't think many people do like the play call, especially because it didn't work out. I understand the thought process. If if that play is run perfectly, you get yourself 15 yards closer, and now it's not as much of a Hail Mary situation. You can actually run routes and try to connect on a closer one-on-one situation than just throw it up in a pile and see what happens. So I got the thought process, but it was executed in the worst possible way. It's coming off of a timeout. The only reason that play even happens is the 49ers got confused because they were setting everybody up on the sidelines and they had too many men on the field. One's trying to run off, so they call timeout. So coming off a timeout, you have to be able to tell Dak, once you hit the 30, slide. Once you slide, turn around and find the referee. Make sure he can get that ball down and then get set and snap the ball. Dan Orlovsky on ESPN, I thought, said it perfectly. If you look up at the clock, because apparently once you snap it, 2 seconds have to run off the clock. That's something I didn't realize was an NFL rule. But once you get down and you realize you might not be able to snap it, and with those 2 seconds, you have to be able to tell people, just go. We're just doing the Hail Mary right now, and go with it. None of that happened. It was a complete cluster once he slid. I'm actually surprised the 49er player didn't lay on him longer, but I'm pretty sure he was afraid of getting a delay of game penalty, so he got up and moved. But I saw so many Cowboys fans go off on the referee and think he should lose his job and he should have been running. The moment that play is dead, that referee went on a full sprint to get to that ball. Yes, he was away from the play, but it's not his job to get closer to the ball while the play is going on. It's his job to check for holding calls first and then go set up the play. It's not his fault that Dak Prescott decided, instead of looking for the referee, he handed it to his center, who then got with his 4 other huge buddies and created a giant wall of cowboy butt right in front of the referee, who then tripped while going through. Now, yes, if he would have been able to not fumble the ball when he got his hands on it, maybe they get the playoff, but you can't put that in his position. It's an old man. You have to put it on yourself to slide, get up, hand him the football, have him set it, spike it, and then you see what happens. in the end, I don't think the play call was the worst part of that. Again, I'm not a fan of that call because of the risk involved. But I'm with you. I think it was all on Dak and a bit on the offensive line for not getting out of the way.
Yeah, now you kind of agree with that. You look at the center, and it was kind of funny to watch it as the center. Dak gives the ball to the center, and he puts it down. The official moves it backwards where it should have been spotted. You watch the center grab the ball and put it back out in front of him.
Well, no, I mean the referee kind of does too. The ref kind of jostled.
They moved it a little bit, but
yeah,
you could see they moved it again, and it's just like
John Boy has a great breakdown about how it's so funny how like the minute inch is very important at the first down line, but it's like there's not one spot that's ever perfect unless you go to the replay. Can we get technology, please? Yet there's technology with tennis. Can we get that with football, please?
Well, so if that's
where they go out of bounds and you just hear in your ear, it's at the 33 and a third yard line, and then you just walk up and you set it down. Can we just do that, please? It does not take long in tennis to do a full replay with the cool little design and everything. I think we can figure out how to spot a ball perfectly every time without taking extra time off the clock. But no, we have to spend 5 minutes every so often because it's really close to that first down marker, even though I'm sure they were supposed to be closer or farther away before that play even started based on where they just decided to spot the ball.
Right. And it even goes back to the fourth down play that I talked about earlier. It was first down ruled on the field. They backed it up. So they make it 4th and inches. And so it's just, you're exactly right. Let's get that timeout or get the quick call in and out, measure it. There you go. Set it up and go. So
now that we've talked about the 2 good games of the weekend, let's talk about the 4 games that you really, unless you're a fan of the team that won, you didn't need to watch this game. Right? They were not that enjoyable. Any of them. So you start on Saturday where it looked real quick that Buffalo was running circles around the Patriots. Obviously, circle the wagons, haha, Buffalo, Chris Berman. All highly entertaining. There's ways to look at haha, the Patriots lost. That's always fun to see. Obviously, Chiefs fan very much enjoying at least the second half of the second quarter. Moving on, it took the Chiefs a little bit to get rolling, but man, when they did, they showed you, hey, we still got it. That game with Buffalo is going to be so fun this weekend. I can't wait. But what outcome impressed you the most? Which winner of those 4 games out of those 4 blowouts really stood out to you?
For me, I think it boils down to, and Robert's going to love me for a minute. It's got to be Kansas City and what they were able to do. I will talk a little bit more about it, but just watching that team finally start looking back to what they have been in the past. I kind of like that. I saw Kelsey. God, even Kelsey had a touchdown pass. They could get the running game going a little bit more. I think, but I think that's the one that we kind of knew it. It was going to be the retirement party for Big Ben, and Ben and the Pittsburgh Steelers just did not look their best, and it just made Kansas City look all that stronger.
Yeah, as Robert Taylor says, 5 touchdowns in 10 minutes and 30 seconds. That's how explosive the Chiefs can be. Like any doubters with Kansas City, and we've had our doubts off and on throughout the year. I mean, the Chiefs go through slumps just like every team, but man, when they click, it is the most dangerous offense in the league still. I mean, Buffalo obviously scoring on all 7 possessions they have, scoring 7 touchdowns. And yeah, Robert Taylor, I mean, he was more than a doubter. He was firing Andy Reid in October. I have the proof. And fans do that. So it is what it is. But I think for me, the team that most impressed me, Chiefs had that fantastic run. Bills were perfect. But it's the Los Angeles Rams that I think were the most impressive to me because they were the team that had the most question marks coming in, playing a tougher competition than Tampa Bay. I think I have a lot of questions with Tampa Bay right now. Are they too old and tired now? And all the injuries with the wide receivers and a couple other positions right now with Tampa Bay has me really worried about that team. But they're playing Philadelphia, so just because they jumped out, what was it, 31-0, and then kind of let off the gas in the fourth, it's not that impressive. But the Rams against the Cardinals, two teams we had a lot of question marks about, and it was a complete blowout. Like, the Cardinals could not get anything going offensively. The Rams had the perfect game plan for them, and Stafford did exactly what he needed to do, and this is why Stafford loved the fact that he got traded to the Rams. The game wasn't on his shoulders. He had what did he throw? Like 17 times in the game for 202 yards. I just looked over to the right and found it. Cooper Kupp was double teamed all game long, so they went, fine, we'll just go to Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, OBJ had a great game for even throwing the touchdown pass or the one pass there for 30 yards to Akers. I mean,
Did you see the dirty stat that ESPN did to Kyler Murray on Monday? As Robert is losing it over there.
I did not. I did not.
They showed at one point that Odell Beckham Jr. had more passing yards than Kyler Murray did in the game.
That's just hard.
Just disrespectful. But I loved it. But yeah, so that was your wild card weekend. Two interesting games with a lot of referee involvement and 4 blowouts. But that creates a fantastic divisional round, and I am so excited. This is possibly my favorite weekend of football because we still get the 4 games, so you still get a good amount of football, but you have possibly the 8 best teams. Sometimes a team gets knocked out that you get shocked by, but honestly, all 4 of these matchups coming up, and we'll get to them here very shortly, could go either way. I made my picks, and 2 of them were based off of preseason prediction, and I'm sticking with it. But if you put a gun to my head, I would not put money on any of these.
Yeah, there's no way. I don't think there's any way you put money on them, especially, you look at 2 of the games up north that could be all in the weather. You look at 2 teams coming all the way across the country. So, I mean, there's so many scenarios there.
All right, before we get into that divisional round, though, let's give our Player of the Week award out. And I don't think it's any surprise by the 2 people we picked. I'm taking Josh Allen, 21-25, had 5 touchdown passes, over 60 yards rushing, and, of course, 7 drives, 7 touchdowns against Bill Belichick in the playoffs. Anybody going, the Patriots should feel good about themselves. They got a young quarterback. It wasn't Mac Jones' fault that they lost that game. The defense had no answer for Josh Allen in the cold. Very, very, very impressive by him. But also impressive was your pick.
Yeah, and I took Patrick Mahomes. I mean, 30-39, over 400. The only thing that with 5 touchdowns, the only thing that really concerns me, and I went back and I looked at some numbers just because of the matchups coming up. He was sacked 3 times. He's not, to me, this year doesn't seem to be as mobile as a quarterback as he has been in the past. He was sacked 28 times this season, and it just is a little concerning. That's the highest he's been sacked in his career. And yes, it's been a short career, but still, it's very worrisome, especially going up against a Buffalo defense coming up in that one where Buffalo has over 40 sacks. I think they were like 42, 43 sacks on the season. So,
but
it's a little concerning, but he's got to get a little bit more mobile, I think. And
to counter that, though, Joe Burrow and Ryan Tannehill wish they were only sacked 28 times this year. All right, so we look at our wild card results. We only had the 1 game different. Of course, it was the first game of the wild card weekend, and Robert got that right.
And I appreciate your text while I was working the basketball game saying I won.
The Cincinnati Bengals did defeat the Las Vegas Raiders, but congratulations. I can't be mad. I went 5-1 on the week. You went 6-0. So, I mean, it was very favorite heavy. So we can't be too excited about it, but you do extend your overall record in the NFL to a 5-game lead once again. So let's get into it. We got 4 games this weekend, divisional round matchups. Let's start with the first game, the 1:30 7:30 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, right as I'm getting set to go to work. But probably the one I'm least excited to watch out of the four. I'm excited to watch all four, but out of the four, this is probably fourth, I think. But the Cincinnati Bengals, Tennessee Titans, a lot of question marks for both teams. Very young team in Cincinnati, definitely, I feel, overachieving this season, maybe a year ahead of schedule. But the Burrow Chase connection, top 3 in the league right now already.
Mhm.
I think you still say Adams and Rodgers.
I would agree
And then
with that.
who? And then who? I mean, because Hill has had a down year with Mahomes. Mahomes has several targets. Not to say that the offense isn't great. Mahomes, Kelsey maybe could be the second best connection. Allen Diggs was kind of off this year, but that's still a very dangerous combination. Obviously, Stafford Cup is up there as well. But Burrow Chase might be top 3. It's a good mix in there, and it's surprising with them being so young.
Yeah, you hit that one on the head. I think the top 3, if not top 5, you know, you
Yeah,
could throw
top
a
5 would
couple.
be safe.
I
I think saying top 5 is safer.
Yeah, I think so. But you hit it on the head. It's all about some of the question marks coming up. You know, finally, Derrick Henry is going to get some practice time and is scheduled to play. How much of that he does play is going to be question mark. But you hit it on the head. I mean, Cincinnati's young. I watched them twice this year play the Ravens. I have watched Joe Burrow go against and Jamar Chase. Mixon has been that nice little blend with them, and so I think that's why I'm gonna take the young guns. Give me Cincinnati.
It's tough not to, but I'm gonna go the opposite way. I'm gonna take the Tennessee Titans because I think Henry comes back. Hopefully he is fully healthy and ready to go, and he's not risking himself for a re-injury in this game. But I'm still waiting for somebody to fully explain how Tennessee is the number 1 seed in the AFC after losing Henry halfway through the year.
Mm-hmm.
How is that possible? But they are here, and they are the number 1 seed, and obviously they've earned it. And they have, I mean, I have obviously underrated them all season long. Yes. It's a great week. This is going to be so fun. With this being the worst of the 4 games, it's going to be great. But I'm going to take the Titans to win at home and have a chance to play in another AFC championship game. But again, with all 4 of these games.
All right. And it's a home game. And right now, lines go 3.5 for the Titans. So they're favored by 3.5. So
then you get to the nightcap on Saturday night. The San Francisco 49ers at the Green Bay Packers. It's 5:15 Pacific time. Haley will be watching this from Vegas, so she will get a good view for sure.
You want her to put any bets on
that? No, I'm not
that?
putting any money on any of these 4 games because I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just no clue. But here, I predicted a Super Bowl that is still alive in the preseason. So I'm sticking with it. Am I in full belief of this pick? No, absolutely not. Do I think the team that I am picking is better than the other? No, I do not. But I said the San Francisco 49ers were going to be a wild card team and run the table and get to the Super Bowl. And to do so, they got to beat the number 1 seed Green Bay Packers. What helps me is Aaron Rodgers is 0-3 lifetime against the 49ers in the playoffs. What helps me is the 49ers have a great run game, and it's going to be really cold at Lambeau. What hurts me is everything else. My only hope is it's really close. Garoppolo is fantastic in the second half of the 4th quarter, and hopefully, Green Bay gets in a situation where they have to make a decision again, and they make the wrong one like they did last year. Hopefully. I don't know. I'm taking the 49ers.
Yeah, there's lots of things can happen. For me, weather's going to play a big role in it. It'll be oh, you're in trouble already. Hey, weather's going to be a big thing, and if Dylan can run the ball and Aaron Rodgers can control that offense, I think Dylan is going to be the player of this game. I'm gonna write that down right now. I think Dillon is the difference maker in this game. I'm gonna take the Packers, but what is going to determine it is going to be the health of Bosa, the health of
No,
of those
100%.
guys, and that the defense for San Francisco. I don't agree with the spread. I think you talked about it. I think it's going to be a lot closer. Right now, it's a 6-point spread in favor of the Packers. I think it's going to be a closer. It's going to come down to a field goal win in this ball game. But give me the Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers is still he wants to prove something. But the difference maker in this game will be Dillon.
Let's go to Sunday noon kickoff time here on the West Coast. The Los Angeles Rams, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh man, it's Brady. It's the playoffs. It's tough to go against him. Can Stafford win 2 in a row? Can they look that good defensively again? I was bringing up question marks for Tampa Bay and the injuries with the wide receivers. You were talking about AJ Dillon being the difference maker. The difference maker in this game is Leonard Fournette. He was a big push in the playoffs last year. I think they have to ride Fournette if they want to make it to the Super Bowl. I think they do here. Give me the Buccaneers.
But isn't Fournette hurt? I thought he was on the IR.
Is he?
I
I don't know.
I believe he is, but yeah, Bucks are hurt. I'm gonna agree with Robert. I mean, the Bucks are hurt right now with that.
Yeah, you might be right.
Whether or not Jensen and Worth did not practice today again. Yeah, I know it's playoff times, and now we start really watching who's practicing, who's not practicing. It's the same thing we do during Super Bowl time, but between Wirfs and Jensen, 2 big guys for Tom Brady that if they're out, it's going to be a tough shoes to fill. But
Fournette has hinted that he is playing this weekend.
Okay, but you can't doubt what Cooper Kupp has done. OBJ stepped up when they were double teaming him. As much as I'm not a huge OBJ fan, he looked good in the game plan for this last week. Akers had a decent game. Miller showed signs of playing decent on the defensive side of the ball. And how do you doubt anything about Aaron Donald? I see Miller and Donald rushing Aaron Rodgers most of the day, but
I mean Tom Brady or
Sorry,
Stafford.
yeah,
Which way are you going? Aaron Rodgers would be weird if
Tom
he
Brady.
got
Yeah,
wrecked
it
here.
is aggressive. I just think that the LA is going to be just a little bit better, but let's go back to what was it week 3, and the Rams, was able to come away with a 10-point win in Los Angeles. Yes, I know it's going to be in this game's going to be in Tampa Bay, but
Week
Brady
3
had
was
over
so
4
long ago. Week 3 was a decade ago.
And Brady still had huge numbers, 432 yards, only 1 touchdown then. So it will be interesting, but you bring it up a huge part. Tampa Bay only had 35 total rushing yards in week 3. So I'm leaning, give me the Rams.
All right, let's get into the final one at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time, which is so weird. It feels so early. Like that game might be done by the time we start bowling, which is going to be very interesting to not have football to watch while we're bowling. But Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs, the main event of the weekend. And again, I'm going to say the same stuff I just said about San Francisco. There's one team I picked to make the Super Bowl in the preseason. I don't think they're the better team. I would not put money on this team, but I'm sticking with my pick. And we can say that Buffalo beat Kansas City earlier this year. I don't think that matters. That might actually make it worse. But I picked Buffalo to make the Super Bowl, so I'm going to stick with my pick. But it would not surprise me at all if Kansas City won it. And if I didn't have Buffalo as my Super Bowl pick, I probably would be taking Kansas City right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think for me, it's going to come down to what Singletary can do running the ball for Buffalo. They've got to be a little bit more balanced. They can't just rely everything on Josh Allen. Yeah, Josh is going to get his passes in. He'll have another 300+ yard game, but you can't rely on him to do it all, and especially against Kansas City's defense. So I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be good. He has to stay out of being sacked. Like I talked about, Buffalo has over 40 sacks this season. He's got to be able to run a little bit more, I think. So I'm going to lean on Mahomes and Kelsey. I give him the ball. Tyreek Hill. I think they need to play a little bit more of short passes to mid-range passes. Don't try to take those big shots. So let Hill and Kelsey kind of work the routes and get the distance that way. So give me Kansas City in this one.
Just give me, what was it? 2 years ago when we had that Rams Chiefs Monday Night Football game, and Goff and Mahomes both put up like 50 points, and it was just complete air raid insanity. Give me that kind of game. That's what I want. Just insane. And yeah, again, oh yeah, nice shirt. Yeah, absolutely. I brought it up top of the show. I want one. I'm disappointed over here. I got nothing on my shirt. It's just the most blank. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And do you know how many times Patrick Mahomes has lost to the same team twice in a season?
Probably never.
Never, ever, ever. So again, I probably would have taken Kansas City if I didn't have Buffalo as my preseason pick, but I got to stick with it. I got to stick with it and write it out. I'm already down in picks anyways, so why the heck not? But it just shows you how great this weekend is. We picked every game different.
Yes, we did.
And we didn't do that for views, and we didn't do that just to have these fun arguments. It happened that way. And it's because these games are going to be so good. All right, let's rush through a little bit of the NFL news so we can get to these local sports. Again, we're repping the shirt, and Sister had a couple good games here recently as well. But Bruce Arians fined $50,000 for striking Andrew Adams in the head. What?
If I would have done that at the middle school level, I would have been fired. No questions asked. I mean, even
no, he didn't do anything.
Yeah, all he did
was get off the field. That's all it was. It was like, he was arguing about something in the special teams play. It's like, just get off the field. He's wearing a helmet. The adult is okay. He will be fine. Now, yes, if you would have done it to a kid, it's a little bit different. But it's just getting him off the field. So are we going to find other players that go around and headbutt each other to psych up before the game? Are you going to get fined $10,000 for the good game butt slap? What is happening here? More firings going on. Raiders fire GM Mike Mayock. Happy, sad about that move?
I don't know if honestly, I don't know if he got a fair shake in there. I think he's a very smart football person. I think he probably could have had another year, maybe 2 years there to see what happens. I just think with, and I hate saying it, with all the stuff that has went with COVID, I think another full year probably would have been some of these, to be able to say, hey, my draft pick that I got here has now gotten better. I'm getting better. I think he could have used one more year there.
Yeah, and it might have just been he wanted out too because of all the drama going around and everything that's going on with Las Vegas right now. Maybe the next GM is if you hire anybody else that has drinking problems, then it's not okay.
You're in Vegas. You're going to have drinking problems.
Yes, well, you got to have players that could be able to control it.
Yes.
Seattle Seahawks fire defensive coordinator Ken Norton Jr. Does that keep Pete Carroll around for another year?
I think it might. Defensively here for the Seahawks, that was where we struggled a little bit. They did let Russ do a little bit more. It's still going to come down, I think, to whether or not they can, lock him up for another couple years. But I think the name I'm hearing is the defensive coordinator from Denver, looking to probably come in for an interview for Seattle. But I'm not shocked that Ken Norton's gone after his
No,
second tenure there.
100% sacrificial lamb to keep Carroll around. Texans fired head coach David Culley, and that one shocked me. Yeah, Brian Flores was the most shocking release of the offseason, but I think David Culley got a completely bad rap. First year on the job, comes into straight drama with Deshaun Watson wanting out, and the Texans saying absolutely not, and then obviously the other drama involving Watson happened, and now they don't have him. So he also has by far the worst roster in the NFL that he has to coach. And you don't even give him a year to try to rebuild it. He won several games. Maybe he got fired because he kept winning a couple games and screwed up the draft pick. I don't know. But I thought he did a great job with what he was handed for a first-year coach. And here he is now just gone. So I just don't understand. Like the Jets have always been a laughingstock with how they run that franchise. The Texans are below the Jets level right now.
I agree. I think the picture that NFL.com has up there of his face during the game is exactly how I think we both felt when we found out that he got fired. I'm like what the. Yeah, and he just got the raw end of the deal. Too much stuff going on there. So is it enough? Who wants to come in? If that's the case, out of any of these guys that are getting ready to get rehired somewhere, who's going to want to come into Houston? Who is? I can't even put a name anywhere that he would want to touch that game.
It's going to be some hotshot coordinator that just wants the gig. Somebody will definitely take it.
So you saying that, I'm going to throw this, and he wouldn't be leaving very far. Does Kellen Moore go to Houston?
Yeah, if that's the only job he gets offered.
I was going to say, do you think he gets offered more than one job?
I don't know. Maybe that QB sneak ruined it for him. But if he doesn't get any other offers and he gets offered the Houston job, he takes it. You got to get your foot in the door as far as a head coaching job at some point. But it's all kind of down to what Brian Flores does too, because I think he is by far the top candidate to get another job. Yes, Kansas City is still in, so it's tougher to get those interviews. But I haven't even heard Eric Bieniemy's name once, and he was that hot shot that just couldn't get a job. So I don't know if they've just all went, he just sucks at interviews, so we're not going to hire him anymore or even talk to him. It's going to be interesting to see where some of these coaches fall and who will take these places. Let's get into some high school sports now, as unfortunately the Lewiston basketball team in a bit of a slump coming into the end of their season. Girls have now lost 4 of their last 5. They're 8-9 on the year. Actually, I think that I don't know if I updated their record. They might be 8-11 now. But they are struggling to get wins, but I like the changes that they are making to their team. We've talked several weeks that it was all Katie Wessels. Get it inside to Katie, and have her make the move, even if she's double or triple teamed. Now, Katie's not even scoring a ton. You're seeing a lot more aggression from the guards. You're seeing a lot more three-pointers put up. A little bit off the mark right now, but they're going to get things going. But it's one of those, can they now put all the pieces together, have that aggression, have the outside shots, and get Katie Wessels on a roll like she was early on in the year? Because if they could do both of those things, I think Lewiston could make a late run here in the postseason, especially because they did take on Lake City last Saturday, and Lake City, the top team in the state. And they were right there with them the entire game, led after 3 quarters, ended up losing by 2. Fantastic game, I thought, by Lewiston, just falling a little short. And then they do lose to Coeur d'Alene 58-46. On the boys' side, they do lose to Lake City, who is also the top team in the state. On that side as well, Lake City is 6th in the state. Lewiston was 5th, but they do lose both of their games. They lose to Lake City 67-56. And then Coeur d'Alene, that was a good back and forth, low-scoring, sloppy game for 3 quarters. And then Lewiston just couldn't hit anything in the fourth quarter. Coeur d'Alene wins that one 57-46. Just one game on the slate this week, and that is at Post Falls. Girls are at 5:30. Boys are at 7, and then it is time for the Golden Throne.
Just one game for you this week. It
Yeah.
must be nice. It must be nice. I mean, and it's not even for you because it's on the road.
Yeah, it's
but I
on,
mean,
well, to be fair, Idaho sports, at least on the girls' side, started a month earlier than Washington. So.
yeah, it's just crazy time right now between wrestling and basketball and things happening, COVID happening, the on-off games. So a couple big ones last week as we were doing the show. We had Bantams were up playing Tuesday up at Shadle Park. The girls end up winning that one 72-27. Totally handled Shadle Park. They had 5 girls in double digits. Alejandra Perez led the way with some big 3-pointers. She had 15 points. Kendall Wallace with 14. Erica Pickett with 12. Whittle with 12. And Maggie Ogden with 11. And it just was phenomenal to see what they were doing to that ball club. I went back and watched a little bit of the highlights with that because it was during the show last week. But then, the big news with them having to cancel postpone the game for Rogers. They're still trying to make up some time with that one. So the girls were not able to go up to Spokane last Friday, where I got to go up and do the game. Interesting there.
Real quick, what are your thoughts on the Pullman situation that has gone down, where they went on a 2-week hiatus and then cut it short for teams that passed their tests?
Yeah, and
Like, was that? Do you just feel like it was a knee-jerk reaction to a couple positive tests to shut down everything, and then after a couple days they went, we're not going to blanket everybody and go back to our normal procedures? It was just a weird situation to me.
Well, they were even they were talking about this prior to this happening, that they were changing the things from the 10-day to a 5-day, and so it just happened that there wasn't at that exact date of when that was going to happen, and so and it's a new athletic director. I'm gonna leave it there because the new AD, Chris Franklin now is on the other side of the state, over near the Olympia area where he's at. But new athletic director, I think that they were just trying to, protect the school, which is good. But
and honestly, when they made that announcement, I was fine with it because then at least we knew. It took the up in the airness of everything gone. It's like, all right, we're out for 2 weeks. And then we'll see where we're at from then. And then, I mean, they did change it. Girls were able to play yesterday. Boys weren't because they're still going through their protocols. But it was just an interesting thing to see. I was just curious.
Yeah, and I ran into Rick Smith, one of the assistants for Brantner up there in Pullman, and he was talking about that how the team was going through stuff with the on-off, and he says it's just been a lot mentally on these boys, and think about that just as with us stressing whether or not, well, we're going to be here one night, next night. What are these kids are going through with, okay, I'm not playing today, so we're not going to do anything. And then all of a sudden, oh, guess what? The game's back on, not on. And I mean, I feel bad for even the fans being able to be at the games. I mean, I had tons of questions last night about what's going to happen this week. And we'll talk about it here in a couple minutes. Is the games with Clarkson got rescheduled, and they should have stayed with Friday, and they canceled them. So they had officials change places, and they weren't putting them back into that same spot. And so they ended up changing times. So Pullman now and Clarkson will be playing on Thursday, tomorrow, in Pullman instead of on Friday. So it kind of shifts things around. I don't get to go. I've got wrestling coming up. We'll talk wrestling here in a few minutes, but it'll be interesting. So, but last night the Clarkson girls finally had their first home game. Finally had their first home game of the year at Kramer Gym, and it come away with a real tough loss. And you can't really count a Vista because a Vista's at LC. So, but first game at Kramer Gym, and I really think it was a lot closer than the final score ended up being. It ended up being 58-49 West Valley. but a lot closer. It came down to a ball getting knocked out and a foul getting called that Daharo was able to hit 2 big free throws and kind of put the Bantams in from playing at a 3-point deficit to then you're 5 points down, and we've got to really change the dynamics. So, big thing, Bantams, 18 offensive rebounds. They had a lot of rebounds, but a lot of those shots were underneath the bucket. They should have been able to put up in the hoop real easy. Just weren't getting the close shots to fall, and also free throws kind of bit the Bantams in the butt just a little bit as they weren't able to knock down not even half of their free throws. So, but big shout out, Kendall Wallace had another great game, 21 points for her. And then Erica Pickett, the bigs, Erica Pickett and Maggie Ogden, both one had 8, the other had 7. So, but that was basically the scoring for Clarkston. So, like we said, they will take on Pullman on tomorrow night, and then they've got East Valley on Tuesday at East Valley. Both of those road games, and then you said it. It is Golden Throne time next week, so excited for that.
I'm ready.
Yeah, and then the boys come off a very tough loss last Tuesday to Shadle Park, lose that one by 1. They had tied it. It was tied at the end of the first and tied it at halftime. Bantams trailed in the third, and then a guy that had no points until the final the final shot of the game. Malachi Daniels from Shadle Park hit 3 big free throws after getting fouled. His only time on the floor and scoring any points, and he ends up locking the Bantams out of that one, 48-47. Xavier Santana and Conrad Dudley, big there, 16 points and 11 points. And then the game I got to go watch, go up to Rogers, and it was like a whole different ball team because all of a sudden it was back to that Justin Jones and fast tempo. We're going to dominate, tough defense, full court press right out of the gate. And Clarkston ended up winning that one 84-40. Xavier Santana, 29 points alone in the first half. He ends up hitting 6 big threes, ends up the game with 33 points. Austin Steinwan also with 24 points. And then last night to go and knock off West Valley, the team was 12-1 coming into last night, knocks them off and wins 55-42. Conrad Dudley had a double-double. He had 16 points, 13 rebounds. And Xavier Santana, another double-digit point performance. But I think the bigger thing for me in this one is seeing that, again, Mason Vantine missing his 3rd straight game with a foot injury. Really use him going against Pullman tomorrow, but it'll be interesting to see if he even suits up. And I've got wrestling, so I'm not even going to get to watch. I'm not even going to get to be able to watch the game on NFHS.
I'll watch it for you. Don't worry.
There you go.
Let's get into wrestling, and I apologize. I had meant to earlier today and got busy get the results for the Lewiston wrestling team. They had the River City Duels this weekend, and also a Lady Jaybird, tournament as well. But they will be in action here in Lewiston Friday and Saturday. Friday's at 3 p.m. and Saturday is at 9 a.m. So go support your local wrestlers over there in Lewiston. That should be some fun. I might be able to sneak over there Saturday before I go to work. We will see kind of how schedule goes. But yeah, a lot of wrestling action. And Clarkston had some good events as well.
Yeah, you say the Clearwater Classic is a big one that the Bantams will partake in this next week, and it'll be nice to see some local action over there. So yeah, if you've got a chance to go watch over to the Clearwater Classic, you have to do so. Big shout out right away to Kayla Rice, Lady Bantam wrestler, is currently 7th in the state of Washington, not just in her weight class, but 7th overall. So shout out to Kayla Rice and what she can do. She will be in action tomorrow night as we will be hosting West Valley tomorrow night, 7 p.m. varsity, 6 p.m. JV. So make sure you look for that. But Bantams had some great action this last week as they went up to the Maniac tournament in Orofino. Dawson Bailey, Kayla Rice come away with first place wins in their weight class. Other finishers, Jonah McCamey finishes second in his weight class. And then Bodie Thieveridge, Braden Flinders, Giovanni Alba, and Carson Ash all finished third in their weight classes. So the Bantams finally hitting their stride, but then Tuesday, their duel gets postponed against Shadle Park. So hopefully that one gets made up. Talking with Coach Thieveridge, a buddy of ours. Very frustrating season right now with the with things going on. But I did find out, and I did not put it in the notes. So the Bantams do host a duel tomorrow night where I'll be at West Valley, taking on West Valley. And then they also have a double duel on Thursday next week as they host in both Rogers and I want to say East Valley. That will have two mats going at the same time. Varsity starts at 5 o'clock, and then we'll do another varsity at 7 o'clock. So it's going to be intertwining teams, and it's going to be interesting as they have a couple of mats going there.
I was really hoping that the double duel meant more like a triple threat in professional wrestling, and you just had one from each of the three teams out the mat at the same time. Can we get that going? I've wanted to see that in the UFC for so long. Let's get a triple threat UFC fight. That'd be chaos.
Yeah, and shout out right now, and they have not panned over to the score yet. Right now, the Battle of Orange and Black. It's Pomeroy Pirates taking on the Asotin Panthers tonight. So girls are still playing right now. They have not panned up to the clock to look at it, but shout out to them. Boys will follow just here in a few minutes.
Give Richie more playing time. That's what I have to say.
There you go.
And not to cause controversy in Pomeroy. I know his dad. All right, let's get into some of the local college now. Look at the basketball teams after the whole COVID situation and having two canceled games for both the men and the women. They both got on the court. Yeah. Got on the court. Men were unable to get things rolling as they lose to Corbin in a difficult one, 88-78. Our buddy Khalil Stevenson led the way with 22 points. But they are now 13-4 on the year, 6-3 in conference after a win against Bushnell, 93-82. Kevin Baker and Nathan Fromm each had 19 points in that game, and that was the one you were PA in that, right?
Yeah, I was PA in both those games against Bushnell, and just watching Kevin hit a couple of big shots, hitting threes, it was great. But you even texted me in there, he's like, how come the Bushnell girls coach is coaching the Bushnell men? And it was funny because he was spending more time standing at the corner talking to me than watching the boys play back and forth.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Obviously, with the COVID stuff going on, Bushnell had to do whatever they could, and give credit to them. It looked like a very good game between the two. Let's go to the women's side. They do bounce back after their two forfeits as they crushed Corbin 105-52. Callie Stevens had a fantastic weekend. She has 27 points in this game. Maddie Holmes, 22 points, 10 rebounds. Addison Clabby had 10 points and 10 assists. There were 6 players that were in double figures in that game. That's what happens when you score 105 points in a college basketball game. And then Callie Stevens scores 20 more points when they beat Bushnell's 63-59, and that is why she was the Cascade Conference Player of the Week. So congratulations to Callie there. Women 14-3 on the year, 8-3 in conference. We talked a lot about track and field with Clayton as our guest today, but want to again give a shout out to the freshman Madigan Kelly from Lewiston. She broke the school record twice this weekend. In the qualifying event of the 60-meter hurdle, she ran a 9.05 time. And then in the finals, she broke her own record with a 9.03 time. She does finish 6th in that event behind a big group of UCLA runners. So pretty nice to see LCSC runner stuck up there with the big Pac-12 runners in that competition. Jenna Carpenter, a freshman as well, took second in the high jump. She broke a school record at 5 feet to 3 inches there. Emily Adams finished fourth in the 3,000 meter. Cynthia Smith finished fourth in the pole vault and tied a career best with a 3.30 meter mark. We already talked about Clayton, but we'll say it again if you had missed it. School record in a mile, 4 minutes, 7 seconds. Just 0.09 behind the top finisher in that event. He holds the fastest NAIA mile time in the entire nation. He also finished second in the 800 because that dude is just a complete beast. And of course, if you did miss it, today he was announced as the NAIA Indoor Track Athlete of the Week. Very, very proud of him. He's had a fantastic career with LC, but he's having a great season so far. He brought up Cole Olson. He also had a great one. He won the 3,000 meter race at the time of 8 minutes and 19 seconds. Second place was a good 9 seconds behind him. It also set a facility record with that time. London Kirk, Ike Hopper, Cooper Carlson, and Jackson Blaker set the school record in the 4x400 meter relay with a time of 3:27. And again, Clayton, your Cascade Conference men's track athlete of the week, and Madigan Kelly, the women's track athlete of the week.
LC athletics is just getting bigger and bigger, and these athletes are just no doubt, no joke, man. I just watch out for LC coming out.
All right, I'm trying to get a judge going on for our thing here shortly.
I just got
ideas.
Oh, there you go. I just got an update from Richie. Richie is sitting there in Asotin getting ready to watch little Richie play. But right now, the girls are all knotted up with 25 seconds left. 44-44.
Ooh, that's
with
a good
25 seconds left to go in this one.
Let's look at college basketball. We haven't done that a ton because that's usually kind of gets what gets bumped. And we still don't have a ton of time for it, but we will give it a little bit of love. Gonzaga back at the top spot on the men's side. They're 14-2 on the year.
How does this work? Tell me this. They get 25 votes. Auburn, who is number 2, gets 36 votes, and they're still number 2.
Because they got 25 first place votes. But they obviously Auburn was knocked down on other rankings.
That's just
it's
silly.
A point system, sir.
Yeah, just silly.
Not that silly. It's a little weird that a bunch of people had Auburn that much lower to make it happen. It's very, very close. And again, it's college basketball polls. They mean zero.
Zero right now, yep.
And the WSU men's basketball season is on hold again, which is happening. I put one women's score on my update sheet because I wanted to double check and see how it went. And we did have a blowout, actually, and an upset. Number 15, Texas on the road took out number 7, Iowa State, 66-48 on the women's side. South Carolina still your number 1 team in the country. WSU having a pretty good season, 10-6. Idaho not getting a lot of wins, but nice to see Ashlyn Wallace, obviously, with the shirt, getting more playing time and getting a little bit more comfortable in that college role from what I've been able to see from her. Gonzaga also having a pretty good season on the women's side, 12-4 on the year. On the NBA side, you're still winning. It's the Lakers are a complete disappointment. The Suns refuse to lose anything. So right now, my teams are at 131-91. Your teams are at 136-80. So a nice 63% winning percentage from your 5 teams: the Nets, Warriors, Suns, 76ers, and Blazers. But now let's get into it. Anybody out there that wants to judge, let us know. You can judge from the comments this time, since we didn't get anyone official and we've been busy and lost track of time on that. Or I have a backup judge if needed. Just leave it at that. Okay. So last week, I was the one that picked, and we did the national championship game moments. And I finally broke our streak, and I picked the topic, and I won. So with the official judges, I am now beating Robert 3-2. But it is close. It's a good back and forth. And Robert got to pick the topic this week. What do you got?
I did, and it's just because we finished it up with the national championship and the college football years come to an end, and it
Mhm.
some of the questions beg to be asked. I'm like, is it the coach that really controls these guys? Is it the guy
Mhm.
that is
Yes.
the difference maker? Uh,
Yes.
Kirby Smart coming, and is he one of the best coaches? Was he the best coach this year for the Bulldogs? So I pose the question,
No.
who is the best college football coach of all time?
It's tough. It's very, very difficult to go through. Obviously, you pick the topic, so I get the first pick. And usually it's a runaway. And that's why we always worry about doing these drafts because the other person gets the top pick. I don't know if it's a runaway this time. And I'm
I
going to go with the more recent one and the one that is continuing to pad his stats and add to his resume, and that's Nick Saban. There's a reason why a lot of people hate Nick Saban. It's the same reason why a lot of people hate Bill Belichick. They win all the time, and you just get sick of seeing them every time in the playoffs. And that's where I give him the nod too. Back in the days where most of these other coaches coached, it was a popularity contest at the end of the year. You didn't have the best two teams play it out on the field to pick a national champion. It was if sometimes it worked out where they both ended up in the same bowl, and then whoever won basically was going to win the popular vote to be the national champion. But you didn't have a BCS to go through. You didn't have this 14 playoff. Yes, do we want it expanded? Of course. But it's more difficult now, I think, to win a national championship than it was back then. Because back then you just had to pass the eye test. Now you have to beat the teams on the field. And Nick Saban has done that. 269, 67, and 1 in his career. 7 national championships, including one that was in LSU. 10 SEC titles in the 20 years he's coached in that conference. And the thing that is shocking to me, with a lot of parity going around in college football, minus some of the very top teams, since 2010, Alabama has not lost more than 2 games in any season. So he's always in the national championship hunt every single year. So that is why Nick Saban is my best coach of all time. And now you get the next pick.
Well, I think he is one of the best coaches, easily top 5. But I'm going to go with a guy that set the standard in Alabama. Yeah, and I have to.
Mhm.
And it's just because this guy, he was there for 38. He coached for 38 years.
Mhm.
And just crazy to see, his most influential was his last 25 years at Alabama. But it has to be Bear Bryant. Yes,
Mhm.
he did have other years where he was elsewhere. He had a year in Maryland where he was able to win most all of his games. 8 years in Kentucky, 4 years at Texas A&M, and then he was the standard in Alabama, where he coached from 58 even up until 1982. I think the biggest part for me with him, he's got over 320 wins.
Mhm.
He's only got 85 losses. His win percentage he's won 3/4 of his game. 3 out of every 4 games is a win for this guy. He's 15-12 in his bowl games, 6 national championships, 13 SEC titles, and who could forget that beautiful black and white fedora? I mean,
I
when you
agree.
say Bama football, if you don't say Saban and Bear Bryant in the same name, it's gonna
No,
be
these are the top 2.
yeah,
Easy.
easily. Yeah.
And it's sad that they're both basically known for the same school. It's very, very close. My argument for my pick over years is more national championships in less years. That's all I got. And
Mhm.
and also obviously having to earn with winning a game or 2 extra at the end. My second round, I think, would be the unanimous best coach of all time if it wasn't for the plane crash that took his life at such an early age. Newt Rockne. Obviously, I wasn't around to see him coach. I know you were. How old you are, but he dies in a plane crash at 43. Still has 3 national championships. Has the highest winning percentage of any major coach or college coach in football. 102 12-5. That's that man's record
Mhm.
as a college coach. And not only that, he changed the game of football as we know it. Was he the first coach to teach a forward pass? No, but he popularized it. If you ask any football historian, and or at least semi-historian, who changed the game the most, they're going to say Knute Rockne. Because yes, I don't think football is as popular today without the forward pass. If it was just rugby and it's just we line up and we just run into each other over and over, I don't think it's nowhere near as popular it is with the big plays that were helped defined by Knute Rockne. So that is my second pick.
And great pick, and like you said, I think this would be a totally different discussion if he does not die at age 43. Totally different. You know, when you go and win 90% of your games, you know, I think 89% of your wins there at age 43 is just crazy to think about. So for me, it's gonna have to be he wasn't directly his predecessor, but you got to be Frank Leahy. Leahy played for Knute Rockne. Yes, that might be why he is as much of a role model in Notre Dame as he was. He coached for 13 years and just 13 years. So that's the big one. 2 years of which he was at Boston College. 11 years at Notre Dame, where he changed the offense, where it had become stagnant from what Rockne was running, and changed the T formation, the wing T a little bit, and also incorporated a lot more of the forward pass. I mean, it became more of a staple in that in the Notre Dame repertoire when Leahy took over. 5 national championships, and he still to this day has the second best all-time win percentage at 86%. He's
Again.
107, and look at how close the numbers are. 107, 13, and 9. I mean, how close you're putting Knute Rockne and Frank Leahy like right here together.
Yeah, again, our first round very close, 1 extra national championship game. Our second round this close, better winning percentage. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean,
so far I've won both, just by the numbers. All right, let's get to round 3, and mine. Let's go Nebraska. Remember when Nebraska was good at football? It was they did it for decades, and now it has been decades since they've been good. But that is all because of Tom Osborne. 255 wins, 49 losses, and 3 ties, 3 national championships. But the fact is, all three of those national championships came in 3 of his last 4 years. And then he just went, I'm done. I've dominated the sport. I'm going to move on to politics. Well, he was an athletic director for a little bit, and then he moved into politics. 5 straight Big 8 titles, which then turned into the Big 12. He won 2 straight there. He was 49-2 in his final 4 seasons, the coach of the decade in the 90s, and again, he retired in 97. So, Tom Osborne doesn't get a ton of credit when you were thinking of the top tiers, but he put Nebraska on the map, and the moment he left, they fell off the map again.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of names you could throw out there that could be on this list, and we'll talk about that after we're done. I give my last one, and we'll talk about some of these other best coaches. But for me, I'm gonna lean this time. For me, I'm going to go one that's still coaching, and right now, and give me Dabo Swinney. I mean, I think for me, you know, granted, he's only been there at Clemson for 14 years, all of which is there. He's still there. He's got 2 national championships, 7 ACC titles, 11-6 in bowl games, a couple of those losses too. Your Nick Saban, but 150-36, and he's changed the dynamics in Clemson. He's changed it to where ACC is somebody that is to be contender with, but you know, he's still very, very young. I can see him staying another, 5 to 10 years if things continue.
or he can go to Jacksonville.
I don't see him leaving. I don't know. I
He's
don't
got
see
Trevor
him
Lawrence there,
leaving.
man, and Travis Etienne.
I don't see
good.
him leaving, going there, and leaving a program which he is really built to go and have somebody look over him when he is in total control.
Mhm.
I
All
just
right.
think that's a big thing.
Anybody out there that's listening live that wants to chat in on who won, my 3 coaches are Nick Saban, Newt Rockne, and Tom Osborne. For Robert, he has Bear Bryant, Frank Leahy, and Dabo Sweeney. But for the judge, we have to always have a guest, and we always have to have fun with it. So I'm bringing in my 4-year-old, Adeline Dawn over here. Okay.
I don't know about this.
I won't be able to hear what Robert says for a second. I'm going to let Addie and Robert have this conversation. No trying to sway a vote, all right?
No bribing.
No bribing. You say hi?
Hi.
Hi there, Addie. So I want to know, how did Dad put you up to this?
Uh,
Did he pay you an ice cream or something?
he told me. He told me from my room.
And he told you that he.
All right, you want to make a big decision for us? Yeah? Okay, we need to know. Okay? We made teams, and you got to tell us who won, okay? So I have coaches of Nick Saban, Newt Rockne, and Tom Osborne. And Robert has Bear Bryant, Frank Leahy, and Dabo Sweeney. So between Robert and Dad, who wins?
Robot.
You're grounded.
Winner, winner,
goodbye.
chicken dinner.
Say congratulations, Robert.
Actually, you win.
Yeah.
This is a coin
Thank
flip.
You say goodbye.
Bye.
Later. Listen, it's a coin flip. I mean, you look at. I think the only one that we did not pick the same school from was our last round. So I
Mhm.
mean, it could have been either one. So
I knew that was going to backfire because she likes you more than she
I
likes
know.
me.
So I'm
But-
going to throw something out at you, and just to think about it.
Uh-huh.
And the name that came up, and it just still sticks with me. There's a lot of coaches that we did not bring up. There's a lot of coaches that you could sway me into putting them on this list.
Mhm.
Bo Schembechler. Is he the best Michigan coach ever? Urban Meyer.
Urban was
Could
tempting.
he be that guy? Barry Switzer. I mean, there's a lot of names that we did not say.
Mhm.
Joe Pop. We didn't even bring up
Yeah,
Joe Pop.
I kind of avoided the Joe Pa situation just for everything else that happened there. But he definitely, I mean, just from his accolades on the football field,
Mhm.
deserves it. Good. I'm glad she had fun, even though she picked the wrong person. But luckily, I don't count it. So,
Well, you know, if
I couldn't get a hold of anybody. Robert Taylor is like, I don't really know college as much, so he didn't want to do it. So I'm like, I'm just gonna get Addie in here.
and Richie just texted me. Yeah, you know, we tried to get Richie on tonight.
Mhm.
He wasn't able to. He texted me from the game in Minnesota and wished he would have. You know, that I wish he could have been on there. You know, so we'll have to.
One of these times we'll get him on there. But so no official winner this week. We didn't have a judge. That's all right. We'll go on with it. Hopefully we'll have some fun next week. I have an idea already for it. It will be my turn to do the topic, and we will get a guest judge hopefully, and we will have some fun with it. But for now, we got to talk about it. We were trying to put it later on in the show to try to get a guest on. That both of our weeks have been a bit hectic, and we forgot to reach out before today, and then just weren't able to get a hold of them today. But Ed Sheff did pass away. Historic LCSC baseball coach. Died at the age of 78. He was the Warriors coach from 1977 to 2010. 5th most wins among any college baseball coach at any level. And if you go look at that list, all the coaches that are above him played or coached so many more years than him. He has, I believe, the second highest winning percentage out of any qualifying college baseball coach in history. Just the dude was absolutely fantastic at his job. Obviously, I remember days at the first run that LCSC had with the World Series coming to Lewiston in the early 90s, being a younger kid and watching games, but I had no idea. Like I would hear the name Ed Chef, and obviously when you grow up, you hear it more and more. But I had no idea. But it was you go to Lewiston and you go to Harris Field and you watch LCSC win another championship, and it was because of Chef. Obviously, I think I partial bias because I worked there, but I had nothing to do with any of these stories. But plenty of fantastic stories at the Lewiston Tribune this week. I know Matt Bainey did one. I know Dale Grumpert did one. I know we've done a couple with some of the stats that kind of showed just the historic impact that Ed had. But just the fact that all these ex-players are coming out and talking great about him, other than the fact that, his coaching style would not work today. Very rough on the players, but at the same time, very kind and very caring about their personal lives. He did a great job from the stories that I read, because again, I've never met the man. I never got the honor to meet him, but from all the stories that I did read, it was very much, a separation between baseball and personal, and he was able to do both extremely well. I love some of the stories that I read of being extremely mad at somebody, and then the moment his wife would show up or a kid wanted it autographed, he could just flip the switch and be there and caring for them, and not show that anger towards somebody that didn't deserve it at all. So again, just what an impact he had at LC. 16-time NAIA World Series champion. On top of it, over 1,700 wins. But Robert, obviously a little bit older. I always tease you about being way older, but you grew up more, I think, at that time where you could what's the word I'm looking for? Respect what you were able to see in the early 90s more than I did. What are your thoughts on everything?
Yeah, and my thoughts and prayers are with that entire family. I know he had moved away from the Valley after the last few years, but my biggest memories of him was, growing up. I mean, my first outings to any sporting events was, besides me playing soccer, was with my grandfather, going over to LC, watching baseball and sitting in the old wooden bleachers there on the right field line, and seeing him walk up and down and pacing, and to be able to share that with my grandfather, my great grandfather at that time, and just the way he handled himself on and off the field. Yeah, he was hard on some of the players for making silly plays that should have never happened, or he was always in that coach mode. He was constantly coaching the entire evening, and so on. So you hit it 100%. The way that I remember him talking to his players, if you did that now, it wouldn't fly. You wouldn't be sticking around very long. But a lot of those
Different
players
time.
that play, yeah, and a lot of those players that played for him would not change the world. I mean, that is who has defined him and molded some of these guys to play. You look at Chip D'Amato, you could ask him, and some of these guys, Dale Bonfield, that played for him, the presence that he was LC baseball. And you, no disrespect to any of the other coaches, any other sports, but when you said LC, the first thing you thought of was Ed Chef and the baseball community and what he did. I don't think we have NAIA here,
No.
the tournament, without that man and what he put into this community to get all these other teams coming into LC.
No, listen. Chef has not coached did not coach for the last 12 years here at LC, and I still think you ask 100 people in the Valley, what's the first name that comes to your mind when you say LCSE? It's going to be Ed Chef. It's not even LCSE baseball. Just anything with LCSE.
Yeah.
Ed Chef will be the name that comes up.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and look at where we have been over the last year and a half. The people we have met,
Mhm.
the players we have met, the athletes that have come and gone. You know, baseball. I mean, you say LC, you think of two people, and it's Ed Chef, it's Kai Fong. Those two
Yes.
names are going to be synonymous with this guy. And we've met some great coaches, and you and I both love working with Sean Pullman.
Mhm.
We love doing stuff with the athletic directors and Alicia and even the players we deal with now. But you just get that feeling when you walk in there. Even it almost feels like this is the house that almost the feeling of this is the house that Chef built. This is kind of that feeling, and he's going to be dearly missed.
Yeah, and but that is why, and it always drives me nuts when it is said, but it is out of respect. That is why it is Ed Chef Stadium at Harris Field, not the field inside the stadium, which it should be grammatically, but you got to put Ed Chef first.
Mhm.
That's how it goes. So obviously, we'll be sorely missed. I just wish I was a little older and were able to understand the impact a bit more during the time of his coaching, but obviously his impact will go on forever here at LCSE for sure. Let's go ahead and move on to the sports that don't get enough airtime. Robert, you have passed me now in our hockey picks. You are 5 points up on me, but again, with all the COVID stuff, I haven't done the math, but who knows if you've played more games than me or not. And it could be by 20. I could have 20 games more than you. I don't know. It's such a mess right now.
What's the latest number now of how many canceled games?
I don't know. Let's see. Were there any canceled today? That's the bigger question. Let me see. No, all 3 games scheduled today went on as scheduled. So that's good. There was one postponed yesterday though. So
it just kills me of where. And do you think, honestly, we lose any playoff games in the NFL, or
no.
do we start seeing
I think
some
they're
college
bubbled.
basketball?
I think they're bubbled enough. College basketball could definitely go down. Obviously, you're seeing it all the time. WSU is missing games. Gonzaga's missed a few games this year. Duke's been off and on. We're going to miss games, and that's how it is. And it's just whether conferences are going to try to bubble before conference tournament games, or if the NCAA is going to try to bubble before March Madness. It's more of that. I mean, COVID's just it's here, and it's just how you handle it. Before you get into golf, I'm just going to bring up the Australian Open, trying to watch some of that, especially when I'm working at the Tribune, but I'm hearing nothing on it. Part of it is because now obviously Djokovic is gone with everything he's going on. Federer's not there, so you just have Nadal. There's no Williams sisters, so you don't have that big name, especially big American name. We haven't had a big American name on the men's side in since Andy Roddick 10, 15 years ago. But is the Novak drama completely overshadowing this tournament at this point?
I think it's got to have a little bit to do with it, but I think it's still more the whole COVID thing. I really do. I as much as I hate saying it, the fear. I mean, you and I talked about the
Well, I'm not
Olympics.
saying not going there, but I don't think anybody's talking about it. I mean, tennis doesn't get a lot of national attention, and I hear a lot of tennis because obviously we have the is it Moskor Pullman? Where is he at? Pullman, tennis coach, works for the Tribune, so we hear about it all the time. But I don't know. I don't see it nationally as much. But all right, what do you got for golf, sir?
Listen, this was crazy weekend to watch golf. I had the chance to play catch up. I've watched a little bit of the first round, but they were in Hawaii again, soaking up the sun. Joel Damon, Gino must have been loving it. at the Sony Open. But Hideki Matsuyama shoots a big 63 under, finishes the tournament 23 under. This is 2 weeks in a row with big scores.
Right.
And wins on the first hole of playoff over Russell Henley. Henley shot decent the entire time too. Matsuyama started in second place at 16 under, 5 strokes behind Henley, and had 7 birdies, no bogeys in the final round. Henley even threw up an eagle during the day, but only had 4 birdies. He shot 5 under. But the big thing was that Matsuyama ended up 2-putting 18 for a birdie to tie it and move into playoff round. And so that goes into the first hole, and Henley completely falls apart. But I think the biggest thing was probably shot of the day, and that was the second shot on the playoff hole by Matsuyama. Knocks that one into the sunlight. He's looking straight into the sun, knocks it within 3 feet, and makes birdie there to win the tournament. So hats off to Hideki Matsuyama. Joel Damon missed the cut, and tough week for him. But they are on their way to the American Express at the La Quinta in La Quinta, California this weekend.
And I do believe Joel is not playing in
I don't
that
think he's
tournament. That's
playing.
why they were looking for the doubles match that they posted on Twitter. I think it's this week. Maybe it's next weekend that they have off, but I do believe it's this weekend. Let's get some bowling news, and before we hit the local stuff, which there was a lot to talk about, do have to say I'm very, very excited that the PBA is coming back this weekend. Players Championship has been going on. Regional finals will be this weekend. Obviously, for anybody that's watched the show knows that the big matchup this weekend is going to be Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. I believe all of this stuff is on FS1. The first matchup in the Southwest region. Robert, have you seen these brackets yet?
I have not even looked at the brackets yet. That's probably the game plan on Friday. I have some time.
What I love about the players is they go in, they have different regions that you go bowl your tournament in. Then the finals happen between the top 5 qualifiers from those regions, and then the winners of each regions would face the next week in the big overall players championship. In the Southwest region, your first matchup, the 4 seed versus the 5 seed, Brad Miller versus Kyle Sherman. We get Brad and Kyle on TV facing off head to head for the first time. Anybody that's ever heard of the Brad and Kyle YouTube channel, it's kind of created a new buzz around bowling. There's a ton of young bowlers now doing YouTube channels because of those two, and the fact that they will now go head to head on Sunday. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how these guys play out. I'm looking. Yeah, it says FS1, so FS1 covering all of that. So I'm excited to watch a little bowling.
In the South region, possible finals matchup: 2 seed Norm Duke, top seed Tommy Jones. Go old school with that one. I like it.
Yeah,
some good bowling if you're into it. If not, check it out. There's a lot of new names that I've never heard of. That's what happens with the regionals. You get more names involved, and it's fantastic. Obviously, what is it? The West region, you got Jacob Buttriff in there. Jason Bomani is the 4 seed. So you got some names to know. But
and then Jason's finally getting back after being 10 months stuck in Australia. So he's finally making his
stuck home. That's
stuck at home. But you watch him if you follow on his Facebook page. But he's making his way. But it's going to be interesting. I think I love the way EJ Tackett bowls. I would love to see him get a little bit better this year. But don't doubt on Kyle Troop. Let me tell you, Kyle Troop, pick it out.
On the local side, Logan Tritz had his 7th 300 game. I'm jealous of that kid. He's much younger than me and just is crushing it. He's such a better bowler than me. So is Keith Wilpon, your bowling partner. He hit number 13. Was it a week from Sunday now? And then Wayne Herschel not only had 1, he had 2 in a week.
2 in a week. Yep. Same night.
So not only did he tie me for the number of 300s we've had in our lifetime, he then passed me in the same week. So congratulations to those 3 for their big scores. Hopefully I can add my name to it because I'm going to need it on Sunday if we have any chance to win our matchup
Yeah,
I might need more. I might need more than a 300 at this point to win my matchup.
Yeah, congratulations. You move on into our league and you get
Mhm.
to bowl this weekend. So it'll be interesting.
All right, give me four items in this week in sports history.
4 items in this week in sports history. Let's talk about 1906. We talked about with Newt Rockne. We talked about the forward pass. In 1906, Football Rules Committee legalized the forward pass. 1966, Red Auerbach wins his 1,000th game as a coach of NBA with the Boston Celtics. We did this one a couple of weeks ago. We talked about how much CBS paid for some of the other games. In 1998, CBS paid $4 billion to televise AFC games for 8 years.
That's nothing. Did you see what Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard for? $79 billion or some ridiculous number.
That's a couple of crazy ones. And I'm starting to run out of facts that we have already talked about. So I'm going to pull up a few birthdays and a few deaths. And this last week, a couple of big birthdays. AJ Foyt and also Albert Pujols was born this week. And then a death of one of, we talked about it a little bit pre-show, as wrestling time is starting to get big with all the events now. But it was the death of Jimmy the Superfly Snuka, as he had passed away in 2017.
I have to say right now, usually I can look at your trivia, this week in sports history, and kind of break down where you might go with your trivia questions and do a little bit of pre-show research. I had no idea this week. So go ahead.
All right. I am going to ask you a question, and I know it's way too old. 1906 football first.
Just because you were alive doesn't mean that I. Okay.
Do you know who threw the first forward pass?
Tom Brady.
He's about that old. No. No. Actually, it was Bradbury Robinson. He is.
That was my second guess.
Yeah. He was in the game opener between St. Louis and Carroll College, and it was an incomplete pass.
Carroll College. I've heard of that before.
That's why I figured I threw it out there. Carroll College, a little college nod for us.
There you go. All right. That's actually, before we go, I'm going to put you on the spot, sir.
Okay.
I have to get my things out and make sure I get all the names correct, because these people that watch our show don't understand our NFL bowling league. But it is our divisional round as well. As you said, I'm still in it, hanging out. Official pick'ems from Robert Hagan. You want to start AFC or NFC?
Let's start NFC.
NFC. Do you take Aaron Page and Jordan Evans, who are bowling for the Lions? Or who are they bowling? Or do you take Bonnie Vella and hopefully Jay Durham for the Atlanta Falcons?
I would love to see.
That's not even who they're bowling. They're playing Arizona. Sorry. I have my things all messed up. Mike Delorme and David Rader for Arizona.
I think I'm going to lean that way. I'm no disrespect to any of these guys, but David Rader's been bowling really good lately. David is an older bowler. Give me the old men. Give me Arizona.
There you go. And the other matchup, it was Bonnie Vella and hopefully Jay Durham. He's going through a rib injury. They're facing the Barrows, Albert and Nancy.
Oh man, another toss up. Give me Tampa Bay. Unless Jay is not healthy and Logan Tritt subs again, then I'm going to switch that vote. But I think Nancy and Albert.
Wow. So you're saying Jay needs to just sit out if they want to win? That's I'm telling him that.
You go ahead.
Go to the AFC side in our bowling league. You have, who do we have? Gary Packwood and Cameron Jewett. Gary Packwood eliminating you, coming in for Richie against the old Billy Kite and David Doofenberg. Who do you got?
Doof and Billy have just been consistent. Billy has been lights out this year. I think he's still got the highest average in the association right now.
I think so.
I could be off a little bit. You just can't count go against them, especially with Cameron being a new bowler. So give me Doof and Billy.
And the final one, Marion Herb Post versus myself and my partner Tony Barden.
You know, we talked about it pre-show. You got to give up a lot of pins as much as but you've been bowling hot too. So all hail Randy
Hope.
Isbell. Give me
We-
Randy
we-
Isbell
we're
and
gonna
Tony
do
Barden.
we're gonna do our absolute best, but I don't have the confidence because Mary, like you said, giving up a lot of pins to her, and she's getting back into the swing of things. So
Mhm.
I'm scared. But that's gonna do it for our show. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Thanks to my daughter for being our guest judge, even though she picked the wrong individual, but I knew she would because she likes Robert. She always wants to talk to Robert before the show starts, so she was very, very excited to do that. Next week we will be in studio for the only time for a while, I think. We will see
Golden
how
Throne Week, baby.
it is. Golden Throne. Hopefully, we're going to try to get a bunch of guests on Tuesday. What actually works out, it just depends on schedules and what happens. But Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., we will also be on klcz.com and KLCZ 88.9 FM. So check us out there. But for now, that's Robert. I'm Randy, and we are out.